Good afternoon, everyone. As promised, I'm going to dive into what I believe to be the very worst songs to ever crack into the top 40 throughout the course of 1975. This has been a pretty rocky year so far, so let's make it a bit more rockier with the rest of this year's dishonorable mentions.
It's the last game of the season on a Friday night at home. And
Oh, come on, this guy again? Besides the corny clusterfuck that is Run Joey Run, David Geddes also accomplished a second top 40 hit with this. And would it surprise anyone if I said that this was yet another story song? I will say that the narrative in this song is slightly more intriguing than that in his breakthrough hit, concerning the titular blind man who comes to every football game in support of his son, who is a bit of an underdog. And the ending to this one, while trite and uber sentimental, at least ties the whole story together in a somewhat satisfying way. Nonetheless, it's pretty damn flavorless and does wear out its welcome pretty quickly. Once you've heard it once, there's basically no reason you need to listen to it ever again. Condolences for the death of a career, Mr. Geddes. I'm sure you have a place in someone's heart, just not mine.
I write the songs that make the whole world sing.
It's been a long, rocky journey for me to begin warming up to Barry Manilow, but I think I'm finally reaching that point. The music snob in me wants to dismiss his music entirely for being overly sentimental and often cheesy as hell. And while for the most part this remains true, I'm finally loosening up and coming around to the sound. But then there's this legendary cornfest, in which this narrator introduces themselves as Music, who writes the songs.
I am music and I write the songs.
Yep, it's basically everything that everyone's been saying about Barry Manilow this whole time. But yeah, this also spent more weeks in the top 40 within 1976, so I'll save any specific thoughts I have on it for that year. Oh great, here's the latest offering from Jim Stafford. Wait, you've never heard of Jim Stafford? Well, let's just say that he didn't have the best introduction for me, that being his 1974 top 20 hit, My Girl Bill, a novelty country ballad that hinges entirely on a gay panic premise. Ugh. And yeah, he had a couple other actually okay songs. Anyway, Your Bulldog Drinks Champagne is yet another story song. The last we'll cover for this year, I promise. In it, Stafford invades the privacy of a woman by peeping inside her house, out of amusement that, yes, her bulldog does indeed drink champagne. It's pretty bland and not very fun, ending on an enormously groan-worthy punchline. Give it a listen if you must, but don't say I didn't warn you.
Don't you know that she's some kind of wonderful? She's some kind of wonderful.
I'm sorry, but Grand Funk just ain't a good band. I guess they have their moments, but while We're an American Band and even Bad Time have them operating on a level of pop rock they're apparently comfortable with, that's definitely not the case here. This has the air of a retro R&B tune with all the swagger and energy utterly sucked out of it. I struggle to accurately explain why this song's chugging mechanical nature makes me uncomfortable, but it just does. Let's look at the bright side though. At least this isn't their cover of The Locomotion.
You can't hide your lying eyes.
As a native Southern Californian, well, you know.
Man, come on, I had a rough night and I hate the fucking Eagles, man.
There ain't no way to hide your lying eyes.
Alright folks, the time has come. Brace yourself now for the rest of this bottom 10 list. Trust me, it's gonna get ugly. Happy fall, everyone! I swear, this is easily the best season of every year for me. Once the air starts to get crisper, the leaves begin to brown, and the wide assortment of pumpkin-themed products are suddenly peddled to us by a variety of corporations who hunger for our dollars, well, I just eat it all up. And of course, what's a successful fall season without horror? My partner and I are actually currently attempting a 100 horror movies challenge this time around, and so far it's been a lot of fun. But of course, I would be amiss if I didn't mention the fall time music as well. There are a lot of songs and albums that I highly associate with the autumn season, usually ones with a defined horror aesthetic, morbid lyrics, and a general hazy spookiness. And what could be more apt for the horror season than legendary shock rocker Alice Cooper? Seriously, his 70s output is nearly unmatchable in terms of eerie retro camp, and albums like Love It to Death and Billion Dollar Babies were essentially devised especially for folks like me during this time of the year. I'm an especially huge fan of Welcome to My Nightmare, his first solo rock opera, and one hell of a spook fest. Personally, I think it's his best work. There's just one problem though. You see, after a few lovely slices of some hard-hitting glam rock cuts that kick off the first half of the album, side A ends with this.
Only women bleed. Only women bleed. Only women bleed.
So let's just get that title out of the way. In case you're unfamiliar, no, this isn't a song about menstruation. Get your mind out of that perfectly reasonable gutter. In truth, this song tackles the uncomfortable topic of domestic violence.
She cries alone at night too often. He smokes and drinks and don't come home at all.
But this song is endlessly perplexing to me, mainly because I can't see how this song could possibly be all that emotionally gripping for listeners. Especially with opening lyrics like these.
Man got his woman to take his seat. He got the power, oh, she got the need.
Yeah, I'd like to see you try to argue how that's not the creepiest thing in the world. And honestly, if I could play devil's advocate, but for 1 second, I could probably attribute the bulk of this song's success to the greater willingness for audiences of the time to consume these lighter mid-tempo ballads. I mean, this is the age when B.J. Thomas and Olivia Newton-John could still nab a #1 hit. And with that in mind, I guess it's somewhat admirable that Cooper paints this picture while centering the victim of the scenario, humanizing them in the process. But still, there's something about that title that reflects itself in the song in some rather unfavorable ways. You see, from what I can tell, when Cooper sings Only Women Bleed, he means exactly that. Only women bleed.
Only women bleed.
Cooper and his co-writer Dick Wagner actually intended this chorus to highlight the topic of domestic violence in a way that emphasizes the inferiority of violent men and the superiority of women who fight to survive day by day.
Man makes your hair gray. He's your life's mistake.
But am I flattered by this? Nah, not at all. I'm not even going to dive into the obvious fact that women aren't the only people to experience partner violence, as that's not what we're talking about right now. But it doesn't feel very humanizing when men refer to women as goddesses, queens, or the superior sex. Only women bleed? How about just women bleed? Acknowledging that women's comfort and safety in a relationship is worth just as much as we inherently believe a man's to be is a much realer, more radical statement than elevating them on some unrealistic pedestal. Okay, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, sure, but this song was fully designed to trigger discussion, so you know damn well I'm gonna discuss it. I just hate that Alice Cooper and folks felt the need to cover this painful, intensely uncomfortable topic while masking up any potential for sympathy with vapid, melodramatic conceit. And that's not even getting into that pumped-up glam rock bridge, which is the most awkward pairing of sound and lyrics that I've heard all year long.
Black eyes all of the time. Don't spend a dime. Clean up this grime and you there down on your knees, begging me please come watch me bleed.
It just about proves that this is little more than another theater show for him. The orchestral swell here doesn't result in any cathartic or poignant effect. It's just damn annoying and pulls far, far away from the genuine heart of the matter. Hell, the same album has a song about Cooper fucking a dead woman, and I find that one less distasteful than this one. Ugh, I'm so over it. Go listen to some 70s Alice Cooper this autumn, but please, for the love of God, skip this one entirely. some legends just can't strike gold every time. I want to make one thing clear. I seriously love Elton John. His and Bernie Taupin's musical partnership has been one of the most consistently rewarding in all of pop music history. John's warm vocals have effectively breathed life into Taupin's lyrics again and again, and it's hard to imagine anyone else doing them equal justice. But it's not only the slower ballads that present this. Hell, Benny and the Jets and Crocodile Rock are among his finest works and prove that his charm and personality extend far beyond slower, melancholic fare. These songs are jam-packed with charisma, and thus endlessly replayable. It is this perfect blending of bittersweet and playfulness that make Goodbye Yellow Brick Road one of the greatest albums of the decade. With that said, I seriously struggle to think of a bigger, more appalling drop in quality between two single releases than when Elton John followed the magnificently touching Someone Save My Life Tonight with Island Girl. And honestly, at face value, it doesn't sound all that bad. I mean, that piano groove could have come from basically any deep cut from any of his albums in the past, even the great ones. The groove is fine and dandy, and Elton sings the hell out of this one. So yeah, upon first listen, it's not too bad. Or maybe it is? I don't know. Personally speaking, I hated this from the very first listen. And to begin figuring out why, let's examine these lyrics.
Oh, she's a big girl. She's standing 6'3", turning tricks for the dudes in the bed. Say, hey.
I guess this is the titular Island Girl, and what we know of her so far is that she's tall and a sex worker. Well, the latter part is the more interesting dynamic, I think. Unless you work for Netflix, but I'll digress. I'm sure in the next few lines we'll get to some of this woman's internal and external conflicts. Maybe she has a forbidden love interest, or her family disapproves of her lifestyle, or she's simply yearning for some trace of meaning to their day-to-day living, just like we all do. Oh no. Oh no. So I guess you can immediately see the problem here. Yeah, I really don't want to get too into why the entire concept of saving sex workers from conditions assumed to be terrible and oppressive tends to do more harm than good in the long run. But the short answer relevant to this scenario is that it's hella condescending, especially when we get no voice from the actual woman in this entire song. Seriously, there's no indication that she wants to be saved, only that the speaker believes that somehow it's the right thing to do. And I think Elton John is supposed to be the black boy in this scenario, adding an extra layer of uncomfortability to the whole shebang. I guess the 70s were a different time. I guess. But even without all these blatantly offensive parts, I think what really gets to me about the song is its utter failure to make any sort of mark. The lyrics suck, sure. But what's so bad about the instrumental? Or the production? Or Elton John's vocals? Well, there sure isn't much good about any of these things. It's the blatant mediocrity of this one that hurts more than anything else, I think. Additionally, I think that Elton John should probably not be singing songs with messages, or at least not messages this crystal clear and obvious. He's better when he's singing about weird shit, like the two greatest occupational endeavors of all time.
If I was a sculptor, but then again no, or a man who makes potions in a traveling shoe,
or the coolest dressed lead singer around.
You got electric moon, I know I should, you know I read it in a magazine.
Or, whatever the hell the Crocodile Rock is. As for Island Girl, it's pretty clear that there's no poetry here. It's just a flouncy, empty nothing of a song, with a mildly Elton John-esque flavor that, nonetheless, has me wishing for something more delectable. Luckily, this guy's got no shortage of masterpieces, but this ain't it. Let's leave this Island Girl bullshit behind us forever. like with every one of these best and worst lists of a certain year, there are always one or two entries that are practically guaranteed to be on everyone's list, despite the variances of opinions and taste between critics. Like how it seemed like damn near everyone's 2018 year-end recap had Friends and Freaky Friday somewhere on their worst list, as well as Nice for What and Marry Me on their best list. I haven't seen very many people make recaps for 1975, but if there were any other 70s enthusiasts out there, I'd like to think that this song would find a spot on all of their worst lists. Heaven knows it deserves it.
My eyes have told you, though I never laid a hand on you. My eyes have told you.
Another bad song from another artist I legitimately love, and this one happens to be one of 2 chart toppers he accomplished as a solo performer. The other was Grease, which I really hope to actually talk about someday. But anyway, when I say that Frankie Valli is an artist I legitimately love, I really mean that I'm a huge fan of the vocal group from which he made his breakthrough, that being the Four Seasons. Most people know them for Sherry, but they actually had a long string of hits and were truly a big deal in their day. Led by Valli's powerful falsetto, their sound was really what defined the early 60s for me. Some of their songs were good, innocent fun, others were just plain stupid, but they were mostly pretty freaking iconic. It's too bad then that Frankie Valli all but left behind the liveliness of his roots to record schlock like this.
My eyes have told you, though I never laid a hand on you.
I mean, just the hook of this thing gives me the creeps. Right away we're made abundantly clear that this is a totally one-sided relationship, robbing audiences the chance to have any sort of sympathy for this weepy ballad. But don't worry, it gets worse.
Carried your books from school, playing make-believe you're married to me. You were 5th grade, I was 6th, when we came to be.
Okay, can someone explain to me why the history of pop music has been plagued with grown-ass straight men fantasizing about being in romantic relationships as adolescent age or younger? Most of them being well into their 20s, 30s, or in this case, 40s? I mean, I know why, but I still hate it.
Like a million miles away from me, you couldn't see how I adored you.
Even more insidious here is the aspect of reminiscence that dominates this track. It's not that he's role-playing as a middle schooler in love, it's that he's looking back as an adult, still infatuated by this likely trivial bit of a crush, and wondering if he did something wrong by not following through with it.
Funny, I seem to find that no matter how the years unwind, still I reminisce about the girl I miss and the love I left behind.
I mean, this song had to have been relatable to someone, given that it was one of the best-selling singles of its year. But do people actually invest themselves in thinking about that one cute person they carried books for during that one semester in 7th grade? I mean, is that realistic? I don't think it is. Ugh, I just really hate every tiny bit of pretension in this song. I hate that minor chord progression of its introduction. I hate that flimsy little harp that pops in every time Frankie Valli sings the chorus.
My eyes have told you, my eyes have told you, you couldn't see how I adored you.
I generally really like Frankie Valli's voice, but I hate how phoned in he sounds here. I especially hate how he drags out the title for dramatic effect after the second verse.
My eyes adored you.
But while all of these factors guarantee this song a spot on this list, one specific element of this rocketed it all the way up to number 3. That fucking choir. I mean, did they give these backup singers sedatives before recording, or something? I have the sense that they meant for this to be the big cathartic swell of the entire record, but it instead makes it come off as 10 times hokier and more awkward than ever before. I mean, they seriously give the anonymous backing singers of Convoy a run for their money.
We got a great big convoy rocking through the night. Yeah, we got...
Anyway, my consensus? Frankie Valli? Pretty cool dude. My Eyes Adored You? Horrid song. But I guess that's to be expected, as this song has infamously aged like milk over the past 4 decades. But honestly, what could be worse than this? Sit tight, my friends. Okay, I'm actually really morbidly excited to show y'all my pick for this next entry, so I'm going to do something a little different. So first, I'll just put the title card up right now. Yep, it's not on the year-end list for sure, and it honestly didn't even peak that highly, but just bear with me for a second. So imagine that you're a, let's say, 12-year-old kid in the fall of 1974. You've just gone inside your house after an early afternoon of playing outdoors and see a bunch of your older family members and their friends crowded around the TV. The event? The Rumble in the Jungle, the historic boxing match between Muhammad Ali and the then undefeated world champion George Foreman. This match ended in a major knockout victory for Ali, who would come out on top to damn near everyone's surprise. And it was at this moment that he was the closest to a godlike status towards which any human being could aspire. And that leaves a hell of an impression on 12-year-old you. Fast forward to a few months later, and you find yourself browsing through the 45s at your local record shop. Just then, this one catches your eye. Black Superman? Yes, that's the perfect way to describe him. Surely the toughest guy in the world could only have an equally as tough anthem in his name. Is it a powerful rock and roll shredder? Or a punchy James Brown-esque funk fest? Well, it's 1975, so there's only one way to find out. You purchase the record and run home to give it a play. And then, after a few tense seconds of crackling silence after the needle drops onto the record, you hear this come out of your player. On a scale of 1 to 10, how disappointed are you? Yeah, this shit is lame, and it's lame from not only the first couple instrumental bars, but also the opening lyrics. Upon my first listen to this one, nothing could have prepared me for this.
This here's the story of Cassius Clay, who changed his name to Muhammad Ali.
Oh my god, is he rapping? Oh my god, those two lines didn't even rhyme. Definitely not off to the greatest start here. I don't know too much about the man behind this record, Johnny Wakelin, but I struggle to imagine that he's much of a figure worth doing a one-hit Wonderland episode on. This was the only record of his to ever chart in the US, and it's not hard to see why. This guy's voice is grating as hell, spouting off line after line with this warbling, shaky delivery that gives the impression that he's reading the cue cards containing the lyrics he wrote last night after a savage cocaine bender.
Now all you fight fans, you've got to agree, there ain't no flies on Muhammad Ali. He fills the arena wherever he goes, and everyone gets what they pay for.
I mean, just listen to how that last line just kind of falls flat with no payoff at all.
And everyone gets what they pay for.
This is exactly how the whole damn song moves along, with no sense of progression, or anything resembling any kind of end goal in mind. And then there's a chorus. My god, that chorus. Surely you'd think that anyone behind the making of this song would convey something that comes at least slightly close to Muhammad Ali's famously tough jabs and impeccable movements, something that even mildly effectively conveys that this man does indeed float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. And well, here you go.
Muhammad Ali, he floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee.
Yep, that's all you get. It's too bad if you were expecting anything more.
Muhammad, the black Superman, who calls to the other guy, Ali. Catch me if you can.
Well, alrighty then. As far as the structure goes, well, that's about it. The song simply folds atop itself a few more times, and then just finishes with little shame. Seriously, this is damn near the limpest song I'd come across in the entirety of 1975. Every aspect of this is so poorly thought out and executed, I really can't imagine anyone listening to this out of genuine enjoyment. In fact, I honestly believe that the reason why it even made it up as high as number 21 are due to similar situations as stated above, buyers being initially appealed by the mention of Muhammad Ali on the sleeve, only to find out that this is an extremely uncool record and throw it in the back of the shelf where it collects dust forever. This song is the primest example of a missed opportunity. If you're going to capitalize off one of the greatest events of boxing history, as well as the icon of a man at the center of it all, wouldn't it be more worthwhile to put more effort into making something that could appeal the most to Ali's fans? And for God's sake, at least change the backing music into something with more of an edge. A punch, if you will. This shit sounds like it came from a Sid and Marty Krofft show. Alright, I'm done complaining about this song. Honestly, the idea of a song this obviously lame still being able to crack the top 40 was a huge driving force of why it sits comfortably at number 2 on this list. There's something about the novelty of it that could at least be viewed as a mildly intriguing relic of a weird era in pop culture. My number 1 song though, utterly worthless in every single way. Yep, you know what time it is. I've got to be totally honest with you guys. I really don't have anything very productive to say about my number 1 choice for this list. It simply fills me with this insurmountable level of dread that few songs have ever come close to reaching. It's a bad song for all the obvious reasons, so I apologize if my thoughts don't exactly come through the clearest in this following bit of analysis. But then again, I guess it doesn't really matter. It's my list. And it's fine if I don't have the appropriate words to match up with my personal emotions towards this song. I mean, it's not like this guy made very much of an effort.
Feelings.
Oh, feelings. Where to begin? I mean, I don't know. Maybe just listen to it?
Trying to forget my feelings of love.
I tend to be the kind of person who will defend a bunch of 70s soft pop cuts that critics tend to deride as corny and cheap. I love the Carpenters to bits. Bread have had more than a handful of pretty swell records. Mandy by Barry Manilow is a bop. This, however, is a pretty clear-cut example of the kinds of truly lame adult contemporary garbage that they warned us all about.
Feelings. Feelings like I've never lost you. And feelings like I've never have you again in my heart.
This song moves at a snail's pace, not helped by the less than average vocals by Morris Albert, who really contains not a bit of charisma needed to effectively motivate a song so hazy. The record is shrouded with empty space, making the listening experience an absolutely dull one. It's this constant waiting game for something interesting or useful to cling onto, and the fact that it never comes makes the entire listening experience a fully unsatisfying and useless one.
Trying to forget my feelings of love.
And yeah, let's not forget about the mindless repetition here of that dreaded word. Feelings.
Feeling. Oh, feeling.
Oh my god, this is annoying. So Mr. Albert here has got quite a lot of feelings concerning a probably recent heartbreak he's experiencing. What kind of feelings, you ask?
Feelings like I've never lost you, and feelings like I'll never have you again in my life.
You know, just feelings. The kinds of feelings you feel when you feel feelings. Gosh, those feelings. Okay, but if I had to stretch the interpretation, we could maybe surmise that this song is about a guy whose feelings... Okay, now that word doesn't sound right anymore. His sentiments are so overwhelming he can't quite string words together in proper logical ways. All he can do is feel. Well, as a counterpoint, pardon me as we zip ahead once again to the year 1991. So here we are again, at my number 2 hit single of 1991, similarly titled Emotions. During the very chorus of this song, Mariah Carey exclaims, So yes, like Morris Albert, she is using the word emotions in an overarching, sort of vague manner. The person she's singing about has got her feeling emotions. The question that follows is, what kinds of emotions is she feeling? And with the rest of the song, she successfully answers this question. So Emotions works twofold in this respect. For one thing, it explains the types of emotions she's feeling in these lyrics. Emotions of love, intoxication, tenderness. Additionally, we get a more implicit demonstration of these emotions through the music, the sound of the record, and Mariah's performance itself. With the disco production and her extravagant vocals, this simply sounds like being in such an intense love, you have no other way to adequately describe it other than feeling emotions. These moments often defy logic, and that's okay. As for feelings though, while the soft guitar sounds just as symbolic of depression and loneliness as it could muster, that's basically where any powerful tendencies of the song reach their limits. The lyrics are vague as hell, and there's nothing going on in the sound or production of the record to justify the aimlessness of these words. And most crucial of all, there's no effort on the part of Morris Albert himself to convey to the listener that he is indeed going through a rough time.
Again in my heart.
It's just a dull, plodding bit of a sonic disaster that attempts to wring out any semblance of sappiness in hopes of it having some meaning at all. But none of it means shit. It's a huge nothing of a song, and a waste of any potential talent involved. Without any effort to make this song any more than it is, it's just gonna be utter, meaningless shit, now and forever. Okay, I've dwelt on this awful song more than it deserves, I think. It is easily, without a doubt, the worst hit single of 1975. Oh my goodness. I always get so fired up while talking about the worst songs of a certain year. I don't usually like dwelling on negativity, but it can be a bit cleansing sometimes. Anyway, thanks once again for watching. This particular video was so much more fun to create than the last, and I'm really proud of it. There's just something about bad songs from the 70s that I take some kind of masochistic enjoyment out of. I don't know, this is who I am, Mom. So as these things go, next up will be my best hit singles of 1975. I hope to have these videos out for y'all very, very quickly because I'm so excited to work on these. I'm gonna do the YouTube thing and tell you guys to hit that notification button so you don't miss when my videos get online. Oh, and also subscribe if you haven't already. I'm starting to get a few more eyeballs on these videos, so I'm obviously really happy about that. Oh, and keep on leaving comments too. I love everyone's comments. Not sure what else to say. Hope you've enjoyed this healthy slice of 70s hell, and I'll see you in the next couple videos where things will be much better. Okay, I'm done now. Thanks for watching and see you later.